How did a young man from a poor neighborhood in Nigeria become one of the most wanted cybercriminals on the planet? And more incredibly, how did he use the same social network that made him famous to leave a trail of digital breadcrumbs that the FBI would follow to the door of his luxury penthouse? This is the story of Hushpuppi, the scammer who fooled all of Instagram, and how a single post brought it all down. To understand the fall of Ray Hushpuppi, you must first understand the myth of Hushpuppi. He wasn't just a rich man, he was a brand, a symbol. On Instagram, he presented himself as a successful real estate developer, but his true identity was that of a lifestyle influencer, a fashion icon who traveled the world, dining with celebrities and soccer stars. His profile was an endless gallery of opulence, helicopters, private jets, and a fleet of exotic cars that included Bentleys, Ferraris, and Rolls-Royces. He called himself the billionaire Gucci master, and he lived up to the nickname, exclusively wearing the most expensive brands, like Louis Vuitton and Fendi. But his genius wasn't just in showing off his wealth, but in how he framed it. Hushpuppi sold a story, a dream. In a viral post titled "Letter to the Ghetto Kid," he wrote, "I represent every underprivileged kid in the world, and especially in Nigeria." This narrative was incredibly powerful. In a world fascinated by flex culture, the practice of showing off wealth to gain social status, Hushpuppi was king. He understood that, in a society marked by inequality, the rags to riches story is a very potent product. He didn't just sell luxury, he sold the possibility of luxury. His 2.5 million followers didn't just see pretty pictures, they saw a goal, an aspiration. This loyal follower base gave him validation and, most importantly, provided the perfect cover. Who would dare question a man who presented himself as an inspiration to millions? His influencer identity wasn't just a facade for his crimes. It was an essential tool for committing them. The story Hushpuppi told about his origins was true. At least in part. Raymond Hushpuppi was born in Lagos, Nigeria, but not into the opulence he displayed. He grew up in the poor neighborhood of Oworonshoki, a Lagos suburb where the struggle for survival was a daily reality. His father was a taxi driver, and his mother sold bread at a street stall. Poverty was so real that his family was evicted from a rented room for being unable to pay. Before he was Hushpuppi, Raymond was just a young man trying to survive. He washed cars for a meager 100 naira, and often had to buy food on credit from local stalls. A food vendor recalled how Raymond and his friends would come to her stall saying, "Mummy, we are hungry, but there's no money now." His first business attempt was selling second-hand clothes on the streets of Lagos. It was in a modest house in Oworonshoki that his real career began. Internet fraud, known in Nigeria as Yahoo. At first, the profits were small, barely enough for cheap sneakers and watches. But one day, according to neighbors, he hit it big. With that first significant money, he bought gold, thinking it was a safe way to store his illicit wealth. Despite the image he projected of being a hero to his community, the reality was very different. His mother never supported his criminal activities. She repeatedly warned him to stop flaunting his lifestyle on the internet, fearing it would attract the wrong kind of attention. He ignored her warnings and eventually blocked her, so she couldn't see his posts. He also didn't help his old friends out of poverty. His closest ally, Sikiru, was still living in the same poor neighborhood, while Hushpuppi proclaimed himself a billionaire. The ghetto kid narrative was a calculated marketing tool, a story he used for his brand, but that was not reflected in his actions. He had abandoned his past, except to use it as a weapon in his arsenal of deceit. Hushpuppi's empire was built on a surprisingly simple yet devastatingly effective type of digital scam: the business email compromise, or BEC. The method is a form of digital deception. Scammers hack into a company's email system, impersonate executives or business partners, and send fake emails to trick employees. The goal is to convince them to wire large sums of money to bank accounts controlled by the criminals. It's not a high-tech hack, it's a confidence trick on a global scale, amplified by the power of the internet. His crimes were impersonal in their method, but deeply personal in their impact. The cruelest and most revealing scam was the one he perpetrated against a Qatari businessman. The victim was seeking a $15 million loan for a noble project, building a school for children. Hushpuppi and his network saw an opportunity. They posed as bankers from Wells Fargo, created a fake website that mimicked the banks, and even bribed an official in Kenya to keep the charade going when the victim became suspicious. In the end, they scammed the businessman out of more than $1.1 million, money meant for children's education. This was not an isolated case. Hushpuppi's network had ambitious targets all over the world. Among their victims and targets were a New York law firm, from which they scammed nearly $1 million in a real estate transaction, an English Premier League soccer club, from which they attempted to steal $124 million, and a bank in Malta, from which he helped launder $14.7 million that had been stolen by North Korean hackers. The Qatari school scam demonstrated the true nature of his evil. He was not a digital Robin Hood stealing from the rich. He was a predator who exploited trust for his own gain, regardless of the human cost. The evil was not in the code, but in the cold indifference to the harm he caused. Ironically, the same tool Hushpuppi used to build his fame was the one that led to his ruin. Every Instagram post, every Snapchat photo was a digital flyer that left a trail for investigators to follow. His fatal arrogance, born from his online celebrity status, made him catastrophically careless with his operational security. He believed the Hushpuppi persona was an invincible shield, but he didn't realize that every click left an indelible footprint. The FBI didn't need a complex hack to catch him. They simply followed the digital breadcrumbs he had so proudly scattered. The process was methodical and surprisingly simple. Investigators found Hushpuppi's phone number in a co-conspirator's contacts, saved under the name Hush. That phone number was linked to a Snapchat account with the username Hushpuppi5. Hushpuppi used that same username on his Instagram account, connecting both platforms. A photo of his birthday cake on Instagram allowed the FBI to verify his date of birth, which matched a previous visa application to the United States. With court orders, the FBI obtained records from Apple and Google. They discovered his iCloud email and his personal Gmail address. His Gmail inbox was the goldmine. It contained flight itineraries, receipts, and most importantly, scanned copies of his Nigerian passport and his Dubai residency card. These documents confirmed his true identity, Raymond Oral Rumor Obas, and his exact address, the Palazzo Versace in Dubai. The final and most careless mistake was linking his personal email to multiple financial accounts used to launder the stolen money. The man who scammed the world through the internet was caught because he didn't understand the most basic rules of the web. His digital empire, built on illusion and deceit, collapsed because of a data trail he created himself. On the night of June 10, 2020, the digital trail led to overwhelming physical action. While Hushpuppi slept in his luxurious Palazzo Versace apartment, the Dubai police launched Operation Fox Hunt 2. It wasn't a simple arrest. It was a coordinated, military-style raid. 6 elite SWAT teams mobilized simultaneously, storming the residences of Hushpuppi, his main partner Ulalik and Jacob Ponal, aka Woodbury, and 10 other members of their criminal network. What they found inside the apartments exceeded expectations. The scale of the wealth and evidence was staggering. The Dubai police seized a treasure trove that revealed the magnitude of their criminal empire. Nearly $41 million USD in cash stacked in suitcases, a collection of 13 luxury vehicles valued at $6.8 million, and a technological arsenal that included 21 computers, 47 smartphones, 15 flash drives, and 5 external hard drives. But the most chilling discovery wasn't the money or the cars. It was the information contained on those devices. The hard drives held 119,580 fraud files and, more alarmingly, the addresses and personal data of nearly 2 million potential victims. Authorities estimated the gang was planning frauds worth a total of $435 million. The raid didn't just stop a scammer, it dismantled a criminal enterprise on an industrial scale. Hushpuppi's most valuable asset wasn't cash, but data. He was harvesting human vulnerabilities, building a database of future targets. Operation Fox Hunt 2 not only ended his lavish lifestyle, but also destroyed the infrastructure of an empire built on stolen identities. When Raymond Obbis was arrested, the world thought it was the story of a scammer versus the law, but the truth was much darker. The investigation revealed a shocking twist that proved his power came just from his wealth, but from his ability to corrupt the very system designed to stop him. The revelation emerged from the Qatari school scam. During the operation, dispute arose between Hushpuppi and one of his accomplices, a man named Kelly Chibuzo Vincent. Feeling cheated out of his share of the loot, Vincent committed an act of betrayal. He contacted the Qatari businessman directly to reveal that it was all a scam. Hushpuppi's response was swift and brutal. Instead of using street violence, he used a much more powerful weapon: institutional corruption. He picked up the phone and called Abba Kyari, a deputy commissioner of the Nigerian police force. Kyari was no ordinary cop. He was a legend, a super cop, celebrated throughout the country for leading the elite intelligence response team and solving high-profile cases. Hushpuppi paid Kyari about $20,000 to make Vincent disappear. Kyari complied. He ordered Vincent's arrest and imprisonment in Nigeria to silence him. To confirm the job was done, Kyari sent Hushpuppi photos of Vincent behind bars and provided a bank account number to receive payment. This incredible story of corruption was confessed by Hushpuppi himself as part of his plea agreement with the FBI. The revelation rocked Nigeria and exposed the rot hiding behind the facade of justice. The man tasked with catching the country's most dangerous criminals was working for one of them. The story of Hushpuppi was no longer just about a scammer, but about a system where, for the right price, the law could be bought and justice perverted. Hushpuppi's empire spanned the globe, but his end would be decided in a quiet American courtroom. In July 2020, he was extradited from the United Arab Emirates to the United States. He first landed in Chicago and was then transferred to Los Angeles to face charges. The figure who dominated social media was now under the jurisdiction of the federal justice system. Faced with a mountain of irrefutable evidence, Obbis chose not to go to trial. In April 2021, he pleaded guilty to one count of conspiracy to commit money laundering. Before his sentencing, in a final attempt at clemency, he wrote a personal letter to the judge. In it, he expressed his remorse, apologized to his family for the shame he caused, and praised the FBI for their professionalism in bringing him to justice. On November 8, 2022, Judge Otis Wright delivered the sentence. Raymond Obbis was sentenced to over 11 years behind bars. Additionally, he was ordered to pay $1.7 million in restitution to two of the identified victims, the New York law firm and the Qatari businessman whose dream of building a school was shattered. Although the sentence was significant, it paled in comparison to the scale of his crimes. Prosecutors noted that in a period of just 18 months, Obbis had conspired to launder more than $300 million. The raid in Dubai had uncovered fraud schemes worth $435 million. The $1.7 million in restitution represented only a tiny fraction of the total damage his network had inflicted and planned. This reveals a sobering truth about large-scale cybercrime. Even when the criminals are caught, the proven and punished losses are often just the tip of the iceberg. In the end, the FBI described Raymond Obbis as one of the most prolific money launderers in the world. His story is a modern cautionary tale about digital pride and the false narratives built online. He was the quintessential scamfluencer, a new breed of criminal who uses influence as both a weapon and a shield. But the story doesn't end with his imprisonment. The fall of Raymond Obbis has not necessarily destroyed the myth of Hushpuppi. Surprisingly, his Instagram account, the scene of his crimes, remains active, a digital monument to a life financed by fraud. For some, especially young people facing poverty in Nigeria, his figure remains, if not admirable, at least understandable. One academic noted with alarm, "I have seen parents take their children to learn how to become Yahoo boys." This reveals the most unsettling truth of all. In the age of social media, fantasy can outlive reality. The image of success, even if fake, can have a more lasting power than the truth of a crime. While Raymond Orbers serves his sentence in a federal prison, the ghost of Hushpuppi lives on online, a mirage of easy wealth that tempts the next generation. The story of Hushpuppi is proof that in the digital world, a lie well told can become immortal. Thank you for staying until the end. Behind every video are hours of research to bring you the complete story. If you value that effort, the best way to support us is by leaving a like and subscribing to the channel. See you in the next investigation.